You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Let's now speak to OCTA Research Fellow Professor Guido David. Professor David, I'm going to start with this. Dr. Ted Herbosa said we are plateauing. They saw the numbers. We're plateauing at 12,000. Can you help us understand plateauing at 12,000? Because if I look at the numbers, our numbers are 12,000, 11,000, 10,000, 9,000. So it's hard for me to grasp what plateauing is at 12,000.
Yes, and thank you, Pinky. I'd like to give an explanation to that. And I heard a while ago in his interview that he mentioned that they take averages, which is important because there will be daily fluctuations due to testing delays. There will be delays in reports. But this is what we're seeing. Actually, we have a negative growth rate in the NCR, a 1 week growth rate, but this is not enough. This does not mean we are going down already. So I will give a concrete number. Last week, our average cases per day in the NCR was 4,665. And the previous week, it was 5,500. So actually, rather than plateauing, it's on a negative growth rate. That was a decrease of 16%. And compared to the previous weeks, for example, 1 month ago, it was increasing by 70% every week. So that's a big increase. For example, it jumped from 1,900 to 3,200 in 1 week. So in a way, we have slowed down the trend. And we can see this also in the reproduction number. It's now down to 1.23 in the NCR. And on a national scale, last week when we look at the average, it's 9,500 daily cases compared to 10,000. So yes, we're seeing 11,000, but on average it's 9,500, and the week before it was 10,400. So that's a 5% decrease. So there was actually a decrease even in the growth rate nationally.
So tama si Dr. Ted Herbosa, but you said maybe not plateau, but slowing down would be the better word for you to describe the situation.
I would believe, maybe it's slowing down. The reproduction number has decreased. The number of cases can be taken as having a negative growth rate, especially in certain LGUs. And also, it's not uniform because there are some cities in NCR which are already decreasing. They're on a downward trend, and that includes Pasay, Marikina, and I think even Mandaluyong. And there are many other LGUs that are already seeing a negative 1 week growth rate, and that includes Manila, Quezon City, Taguig. So it's not yet clear if this will be sustained. So hopefully, with the momentum that we have with the ECQ, even though we downgraded to MECQ, we can carry this momentum and continue to have a negative growth rate and eventually reverse the trend. But we project that by next week, we will start to see a clear downward trend in cases.
Yeah, that's what I was asking Dr. Ted also, because we understand that anything that's implemented or happens, it takes about 2 weeks before the numbers actually reflect. So this week, what kind of numbers are you looking at? And what reproduction rate? Because remember when we spoke before, the reproduction rate was at 1.94, it went to 1.5, and then now you said it's 1.3. So what numbers are we expecting next week, and what reproduction rate?
Yes, Pinky, the reproduction number now is about 1.23 from 1.9. So that's a significant decrease. And we're hoping that by next week, it will be close to 1. When it goes down to 1, that means we will start on a clear downward trend. The number of cases will not significantly decrease yet by this week. It may even be around the same level, around 5,000 on average in the NCR. But right now, we're also seeing upticks in other provinces outside the NCR plus. So this could affect the numbers that we're seeing nationally.
I see.
Yeah, so because we're seeing an increase in, for example, in Santiago, there are some smaller increases in Bicol and Ilocos regions, in La Union. So those will affect the numbers. But in the NCR, we hope to see leveling off of the numbers and eventually a downward trend.
What will this shift to MECQ and how will it actually affect our present situation? Because OCTA was hoping one more extension of ECQ. How big of an impact would this be, you think?
Actually, Pinky, in our last report we sent to the IATF, and we also released it. One of our recommendations was if we cannot extend to ECQ, we could at least downgrade to MECQ, or rather ease the restrictions to MECQ. Now, we haven't read the specifications of the MECQ yet. I understand it's very long, so we're waiting to see what that would be. But definitely, we don't think that this will cause an increase in cases. It will maybe delay the slowing down, the downward trend, but we will get there, and we're hoping to see by next week the reproduction number will be around 1 or less than 1.
You know, it's a bit of a relief to speaking to you today, Professor David, because there's a slowing down of numbers. Even, you know, saying that in NCR it used to be, you know, 5.5, now it's about 5.45 or 4.4. And then very important really is the reproduction rate at 1.23. We're hoping na bumaba po yan sa 1. So just very quickly, areas of concern in NCR.
Well, actually, most of them are starting on a downward or negative growth rate. So the ones that are still having a positive growth rate are Muntinlupa. And the reason is that the surge happened later in these areas, like Muntinlupa. And it started earlier in Pasay. So that's why I think Pasay is already on a downward trend. And the same with the other LGs, which started earlier. So we wouldn't really call it an area of concern. It's just that we're just waiting for these LGs to also have a negative growth rate.
Professor David, I hope that when we speak again, we're talking about a reproduction number of just 1 or maybe even less, back to about 0.9 something in the past. OCTA Research Team, Professor Guido David, always a pleasure. Maraming salamat. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.